This past weekend, Gervonta Davis took on Ryan Garcia in the T-Mobile Arena, with Tank Davis getting the 7th round knockout via body shot. And after his victory and after a win in a fight which has been built up for so long, almost seen as a legacy fight for both fighters, I have the question: is Gervonta Davis now the new face of boxing? Now, it is a little bit of a hard one to answer because there are so many big names in boxing. You've got Canelo Alvarez, who I think is the biggest superstar in boxing at the moment, the number one attraction. You've got Tyson Fury. Whilst he annoys people with his maybe taking or not taking fights, he's still a big star, Fury. And then you've also got the likes in America, like Spence is a big star, not on, I don't think Tank's level, but still very big. Anthony Joshua in the UK is a huge star, but in boxing, I think Canelo is the guy. But after this win, are we going to see the rise of a new superstar? Because with Tank, another one, built up from such a young age, and it's interesting looking at Tank as a fighter in his career, because his career, he has been built actually very similar to how Canelo was, in the sense that Canelo, if you remember, never really committed to a weight class. He always had like a catch weight, as people like to call it, the Canelo weight, where he was almost between like 154 and 160, and occasionally would dip a bit under. Obviously, he was weight drained when he fought Floyd at 150, but he never really had a weight class, so he didn't take the traditional route of going fighting the guys in his own division and then winning world titles. He fought good guys, obviously, Canelo, but just not in a traditional way. And I think Tank has done the same. Tank's never really committed to a weight class. He's obviously gone up and down, but he kind of fights at 140, then 135, and in his fight catch weight it's very much one where I don't think Tank, because of who he is and who he's managed by, was ever going to take the traditional route, like what Devin Haney did when he fought Linares and was fighting, I don't want to say contenders, but decent fights, and then eventually getting that big world title fight. Or, Spence did that same thing. I think Tank, because of the Floyd thing, he was always going to be built in a way where he was kind of going to take these sort of meaningless fights and then eventually build the opponents up. And then now we've seen he's got this big super fight with Garcia, in which he got the victory. And I just wonder now, are we looking at a big superstar? Because one thing you say about Tank, I wouldn't say he's a great talker, so I don't think you can remark him on that. However, against Rolly Romero, I did like his trash talk. Personality-wise, you can sell him in no way. I think he's comes from Baltimore. He has certainly, I think, the support of the African American community, it seems like. And most importantly, he is entertaining to watch and destructive in there. And that type of thing will always sell, I think, with audiences. And yeah, I do like Tank. And I think this fight, Tank showed how good he was. In terms of my thoughts on the fight itself, I felt going into it that he would get it done. Tank, I said he would get it done in round 9. Got it done in round 7, but I pretty much thought he'd get it done within that time frame either way. Simply because I felt Ryan Garcia, as talented as he is, has too many deficiencies to kind of avoid not getting knocked out by or stopped by a guy like Tank. And as the fight went on, so I obviously drew up a scorecard for it. At the time, I had Tank ahead. I think they were showing one judge actually had the second round a 10-10 round, a draw, which was ridiculous considering a knockdown in the fight. But you know how these judges can be. I gave round 1 to Garcia. Obviously, round 2 is a 10-8. Then I think the only round then I gave to Garcia was round 6, and then obviously round 7 was the knockout. I felt Garcia, the first round was very tentative, very much of a chess battle, both guys kind of feeling each other out, and I gave it to Garcia purely on activity because neither guy really asserted himself that much. And in round 2, I think Garcia was finding success, tangling Tank up a bit, and I was thinking then maybe Garcia's a bit long for him, maybe he's causing those type of problems, because Tank's a notoriously slow starter in fights, but I felt as if, I don't know, he just looked a bit untidy in there, and I didn't really think it was much of an issue. I didn't think he was hurt at any points, but it looked a little bit messy in there, and I think that's why sometimes the visuals can give off something different than what's actually happening. And when Tank was getting hit, Garcia was throwing right hands, and Garcia then got way too overzealous, and With a guy like Tank, you cannot make those mistakes. And Tank dropped him in the second round with a beautiful left. Sat him down, not as bad as Luke Campbell, I don't think, because Luke Campbell, his arm was like literally behind his back almost. He just got sat down with a beautiful counter, and I think that kind of changed the sort of whole thing of the fight, because then Ryan never tried to really press forward as much, never really pressured Tank, and I don't think he really had the success that I think he thought. He was constantly looking for that counter left hook, but he got to understand that counter left hook is a beautiful punch, but Ryan Garcia is not a southpaw, he's an orthodox fighter. He power punch is not the left hook, it is his right, and he, to me, did not trust his right hand enough. He was throwing it towards the 5 and 6, but he didn't do it enough, and I think against Tank, you've got to have more than one weapon. Tank was seeing that left hand coming every single time, and to be honest, in there, Ryan's good, but I felt before this that Tank was the better fighter, and I think you kind of saw he was a level above Garcia in there, in his thinking, in his shot selection, in just the way he kind of went about it, his fight IQ. I don't think there was really much I think I'd give Ryan over Tank. Even speed is close. Ryan's got very blinding speed, but it's not get twisted. Tank, he's quick and explosive, and I think people underestimate also how good of a boxer he is. So there's many things I think with Tank which people overlook a little bit. I do think with Garcia, he can come back from this. A lot of people are giving him some stick because of they felt he quit when that body shot. I would recommend those people to, if you are have a similar weight, to get hit by with a punch to the liver by Gervonta Davis and see how you react. I don't think it's going to be the same. Andy Ruiz said he quit, but let's not get twisted, right? If Andy Ruiz took a solid body shot like that from a Deontay Wilder, Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury, I think he'd do the same thing. Tony Bellew also said the same thing, but again, these guys, I don't think they. I think it's hard to judge unless you are in there and actually getting hit with that. We know what body shots can do. We saw what body shot Ryan Garcia did to Luke Campbell, and credit Garcia, he did look like he really tried to get up, but I just don't think he could. And I also felt in there that I don't know. It felt as if in the knockdown as well. I didn't see the punch at the time because it was so quick. I don't think the commentators saw it either. And even Tank, I think, was surprised when he hurt him with it. But the body shots were there. He was constantly landing that straight left to the body every single time. And Garcia wasn't doing anything to really stop it. He was constantly getting hit by it. And I think, to me, if he didn't get a knockout, then he would have knocked him out either way. I didn't see Garcia ever lasting in there the whole 12 rounds with Tank. I just think Tank's too explosive and too dangerous, and Garcia's defense is very, very lackluster. I've said it before, he stands straight up and there's no dipping of the levels. He's just almost like it's going to sound rude, but like a plank of wood in there, who's obviously got very fast hands, but he's quite flat-footed. Defensively, I think he would help going back with Canelo and Eddie Reynoso, in my opinion, because I think they would help more with that side of it, as we saw how Canelo learned from when he fought Floyd. And this could be the same thing. I think Ryan will come back better from this. I do think people need to give him respect. He called for this fight for a long time and has been wanting to make these fights. So I'm happy we finally got it, and I think the fight was fantastic. Whilst it lasted 7 rounds, I knew it was going to be a stoppage. I think for Ryan, he's a bit too predictable, I think, with his counter left hook. I didn't think just didn't give Tank enough to worry about in there, and I think Tank, possibly a career best performance, to be honest. The Pedraza fight, he really turned it up, and the Leo Santa Cruz fight was one of the most incredible knockouts I've seen. But here, considering the opposition, considering the hype of the fight, the magnitude of it, I felt he almost fought a perfect fight. I think the only issues I had was when Tank looked like he was channeling his inner Khabib and kept trying to almost just lunge at Ryan rather than, I don't know, just holding normally. It was like he really was going for takedowns in there, and I don't know, weird. Obviously I understand Tank's smaller, so he kind of has to make up the distance, and it might look a little bit weird at times. But yeah, an interesting though turn of events in that fight. With Tank, there was no real fights talked about afterwards, so I think he was just talking about performances and how good he felt. He's talked about how he feels he's the face of boxing now, Tank, and I do feel that now we're going to see a lot of those discussions. Tank's been on the radar for a long time to be touted as the face of boxing. I think now, after this win, beating Ryan Garcia, who has a huge following, he's shown what he is. Tank was always this good. He was always an elite level talent. My problem was the matchups, and they weren't giving him fighters who I felt really matched his pedigree. And I think somebody put in the comments of one of the highlights of the fight is that they felt as if Tank's style is a combination of Floyd and Manny Pacquiao, and I could see what they mean. And I do see a lot of Pacquiao in the way Tank fights, but Tank is extremely patient in there, and I think that's where the Floyd thing comes from. It's a very good comparison, to be honest. But yeah, I think Tank just really, really fought a beautiful fight. Picked his shots. He's so accurate. He's not really a high volume type of guy. He picks his shots very, very well in there. He's very accurate, and he knows when's the right time to go and when not. I think some fighters don't know that. I think Ryan should have learned that in the second round when he was going too crazy. He should have learned that you need to relax and not let these and then don't let the occasion get to you almost, and just relax. You don't need to try and get him out there straight away. He could knock him out, but I felt as if it was too overzealous in my opinion. But he'll be back, Ryan Garcia. I'd like to see him fight. I don't know if there's anybody like a Cambosis or somebody. I think would be an interesting fight next for Tank. Naturally, you want the Haney's, you want the Shakur Stevensons, the Lomachenkos, but I don't think we'll see that. I think Tank will fight somebody else, a lesser known opponent, and then I think he'll go. Then I think once the division shapes up a bit and Shakur gets some wins and Haney gets the wins, I think that's when you may see him fight one of those two. I like to see him and Shakur. I think Shakur gives him problems. Haney, I think he does very well against. I just wonder if he can knock him out. Lomachenko will be interesting though, because how is Loma going to do against Haney now? How is he? Is he getting on a bit Loma, or is he still that guy? This division's shaping up very nicely, and I love the fact that we got this fight when it should have happened. Both guys young in their primes, so I think Garcia's still got a way to go. Actually, I don't think either of them are in their primes yet. I think this fight will happen again, 140, 147, whenever. I think when they're both in their primes as well, I think you're seeing them both young in their careers. Even though Tank's 28, there's still so much. I think 32 to 33, in my opinion, is the peak age for a fighter, and I think I'd like to see them fight when that happens. But like I said, a very intriguing fight though. Stylistically, it was very good to see. It was good to see two fighters who are seen as these sort of young superstars get in there with each other, and this hopefully is the start of a monopoly in boxing where we do see bigger fights happen. Crawford Spence is always been talked about being made, and it was probably going to be made. The rumours of it being obviously announced on Spence Crawford was false, although they are making the fight and they do feel it's both close. There is talk about a 4-way sort of fight deal in Saudi Arabia with Joshua and Wilder and Fury and Usyk. I doubt it happens, but I just hope this is the start. And you know what? If Tank can continue it, I think what he's doing at the moment, he will be the face of boxing, because this man is literally a mini Mike Tyson. It is perfect for him. He is so skilled. He knows when to pick the shots. His distance. He knows exactly the right time to measure. He was constantly pouring the jab out as well against Ryan and sticking out, and I think Ryan really struggled with it. Ryan's jab's usually very good, but I just think it was poor. And I'll be honest, a lot of people picked Ryan in this fight, and I think it's one of those where they just had an inkling rather than to be an educated guess, because I never really saw what Ryan at this point in his career could really do to Tank. Give it a few years, maybe he could, but I just think his defense isn't there. He's a bit too straightforward. I think he moves back, he kind of holds his chin up in the air, and I think there's a lot he's working on, but he'll be a world champion. He will be up there, Ryan. He's very talented. I just think you just stay focused on boxing. Don't let any of the outside stuff distract you, and he'll be there one day. And I think Tank is a superstar of the sport. And I think for your Haney and Lomachenko, it should inspire you, because Tank put in there and put in a beautiful performance. And I'd hope to see one of those two in not that long. I think it's May time to put in a similar type of performance. But yeah, excellent fight. I'm so happy, like I said, that we got this fight. It's finally done. Tank Garcia came and it went. Tank got the victory. I'm sure we'll see these two again. But just my quick reaction, well, not really quick, but a reaction to the Tank Garcia fight. And I asked the question now, Is Gervonta Tank Davis now the new face of boxing? Has he overtaken the likes of a Canelo, Tyson Fury? My opinion, we're not there yet, but I think time will tell, and I think give it a few years, I think you will see it. I think you will see when people talk about boxing, they will speak about Gervonta Davis. But yeah, just my thoughts on what transpired this weekend, and yeah, until next time.